Alright, welcome back to the studio. So it's been a little while since I've done a painting online here for you guys, and I thought I would start back with something I really like, and that is painting rust. So to that end, I have found a nice little picture. It's not too detailed, just detailed enough that we can get into having some fun here. Of course, it's a lock with a rusty hasp on it, and I don't know what you call this. I guess that's a hasp. That's a hook. Anyways, whatever it is, it's a bunch of rust on it. It's flowing over the top of the lock. It's on the top of the hasp here. I think it looks fantastic. I really like this, so that's what we're going to paint today. I've kind of pre-drawn this. Here it is. I've simplified it a little bit. I don't have nearly the amount of nails in the wood. I don't have the entire wood. I don't have the entire hasp. I've kind of simplified this for us to make it as easy as possible. And we're just going to go from there. Looks like I forgot to erase a line up here. I'm just going to try and do that real gently. Really gently. There we go. And we've got a couple of challenges in this painting. One is, how do we make the rust color bleed down our wood, down our brass, down, I'm guessing this is galvanized metal. We've got it bleeding down here and up over here. How do we do that? And how do we make this hasp seem white? It's really kind of a white on here. It's got like a film on it, but my paper isn't quite as white. My paper is an older paper, and it's got a little bit of yellow in it, so that's going to be a bit of an issue for us, but we're going to give it a try. I'm going to use my studio paints today and a couple of smaller brushes. I'm going with my, what do we have here? Winsor Newton University Series brushes. I like these a lot. They're kind of nice brushes, so we're going to go with that. I'm going to start here with our lock. And it's kind of a gold color, so I'm going to mix up a little bit of my ochre here, and I believe this is transparent orange oxide there also. Make a nice brass color for us. There we go. Just paint that in just like that. We're gonna be coming back over top of this, but I want to just get in a little bit of base color on here. And before it dries, I just want to drop in some of this, I don't know, raw umber. Can't be raw umber. Burnt sienna. I'm sorry, it's burnt sienna. Just drop in a little bit of that. And I'm going to come up, I'm going to leave that do what it's going to do right there. I'm going to get a little bigger brush, and I'm going to get a little bit of ultramarine, here it is, water it down, and then dry my brush off mostly. And I'm going to come up and I'm going to tackle my hasp up here. I'm just going to go right on the side with my brush and scrape it on here a little bit. I want to just get a little bit of color, but I don't want, I want it to be pretty dry. I want, excuse me, I want the paper to pull a lot of this color off of there so it's in a nice irregular pattern for us. And I'm just going to make some marks on there. So we kind of went out of the line over here. I don't want to do that. Just wet it and dab it off a little bit. I'm hoping you can see that. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. I'm holding my brush almost totally flat like this. It's almost dry and just barely touching it. If I were Bob Ross, I would say it's 2 hairs and some air. Just, you can hear it, it's just barely touching that. There we go. All right, and I'm going to let that sit. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to take some of my burnt sienna here. I'm going to use that as my main rusty color. And before I get too far into anything, I'm going to paint a couple of these nail heads in here with this color. And I'm going to mix in with it. There it is. I had to find it just for a second. Whoa! I want you to be able to see a little bit of what I'm doing. I had to find where my sepia was. I'm just going to touch on the bottom of these. These have a little bit of a curve pattern to them, you know, a convex bit to them. So I'm going to just touch that on there. Now I'm going to mix up a larger bit of, with a little bigger brush. This is my mop brush, one of my favorite brushes. This is the Princeton Neptune mop brush. This one happens to be number 4. It's the smallest. I've got some bigger ones. I've got the 6, which is also a nice brush, and an 8, which is huge. You can see the size difference between the 4 and the 8. And if you're using this, you better have a big piece of paper, because this will hold a lot of water. But I'm going to use the number 4, which I really like. And I'm going to go back to my ochre. Yes, I'm giving my paper just a minute to dry there. That's what I'm stalling, is what I'm doing. I'm mixing a little bit of my Payne's gray, and I want this to be pretty gray, but a little bit warmer than that cold gray that you get. Let's see, I'm going to mix in just a little bit of that. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. Maybe we can warm it up just a little bit more. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to use that as the base for my wood coloring. So I'm going to make it nice and moist. I've actually added another drop of water to it. I'm going to come in and I'm going to just put in all of this nice weathered wood in here. Just being really careful to stay outside of my drawn lines. And this brush will probably put down enough water. There we go. That whatever edge I have going, whatever wet edges I have, will stay nice and wet while I'm doing this. Oops, I just touched that. I didn't really want to do that. There we go. I can go right over top. I can go right over top of my nail heads. They're going to need to be darkened, but I wanted to have them in place. I don't know, I guess you didn't need to have them in place, but I wanted to have those in place before I did anything else. And just let me turn this really quickly. Just going to get up and around the top here. There we go. Quick as that. I'm going to look back on my sheet and I'm going to find out where I have some serious rustage. Well, I know I've got some here and I've got some up here. I'm going to put a little bit under here. If I put it on this side of that lock hook, I better put it on the other side. I'm going to go around all of these nail heads. There we go. And like I said, luckily I'm just going to pull some down like this to make it look like that rust is kind of dripped down in a rainstorm or something. Maybe I could hold it up just a little bit and actually let that run down. It'll look just like it's gotten wet and run down. I know it's a little bit hard for you to see. I'm going to set it down in just a second. And a little color run onto my lock. I think that'll be fine. Whoops. There you go. I think that's good. Now you can see it came out of these nail heads that were there previously, and just it really looks like it ran right down. I'm going to just put a little bit more here. I want this to really be red and rusty over here. And while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to, now I know that my blue here, which I put on it, which was really dry before, has dried. So I'm going to turn my painting upside down and mirror some of that going up. I'm just using a little bit of paint, getting it a little bit wet and letting it kind of work its way right up wherever I think there needs to be a little bit of that rust. You know, I think there ought to be a little bit up here somewhere. There you go. I am putting on a little bit of extra water onto this blue. The blue is already dried, so we don't have to worry about that running and mixing too much. There we go. If we turn it back around this way, we can totally see now that it looks like there's been water pouring on this for a long time and it's gotten really rusty. Alright, so now I've got to wait for this entire surface to dry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up to our little bolt here, and I'm going to paint the shadows behind it. So I'm going to take my ultramarine and I'm going to mix in a little bit of Payne's gray just to keep with the same color, but I just want to darken it up a little bit. And if I can do this without getting my hand in the paint right down here, I'm going to do this. So let's see. Got a little bit of shadow right there. Darken that, and I've got it on this side also, something like that. If you see me reaching up into the corner up here, all I've got is an old towel up here that I'm just dabbing my brush on. That's what I'm doing. Let's see, where else could I put a little bit of our shadow mixture? Of course, right over here. There we go. And I'm just going to let that run down and mix right in with what's already wet. There we go. Our rust that's already there. And I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to get an even smaller brush. I'm going to get a rigger. This is a Princeton Select #1 rigger. And I'm going to darken up my color even further. A little more ultramarine. A little bit more my Payne's gray. You can see it here. There it is. Nice and dark. And I'm going to put in some really dark areas. I think I've got a pretty dark area right in here. I think I've got some right there. And I know that this darkens up underneath here. Just about like that. In fact, you know what? I'm going to put on just a really dark, bit of a darker stripe right there. There we go. That's going to make that pop out just a little bit more. I think I'm not going to put it on the top. But we're going to come back and we're going to put a little bit of shading on our bolt right there. So here we go. I'm going to come back, and I'm going back to my Winsor Newton University brush. I'm going to go back to my ochre color mixed with a little orange oxide. It gives me my nice gold. And I'm going to put just a bit of dark on here. Should help to make that look like the side of that lock, like we're looking on it just from an angle. So there we go. I'm just going to put that little bit there. There it is. And of course, I love the fact that our rust has come all the way over here. I'm going to lighten this edge just a little bit. I don't want that hard of an edge. There we go. I think that's going to look a lot better. I could have mixed a little bit of a bluer color in there too, but I think I like this a little bit better. Now I'm going to go, see, I can't go back over that. So I'm going to come back up here, take one more crack at this. I'm going to turn this upside down, and I'm going to paint in, and it's going to have to be really light. A little bit lighter. There we go. I'm painting in the shadow line on that bolt, because I want everybody to be able to see that that's round, but I don't want it so dark that we lose it in our shadow below. There we go. I think that's going to be real good on that, and it doesn't call for it, but I'm going to take our darker color and I'm going to put this in on the edges of this, just to make it stand out a little bit, just so we know what it is. There we go, and I think I should have waited just a second to make sure it was dry back behind there, but that's fine. We'll deal with it. So I'm still waiting for our wood back here to dry so we can go up and do some additional work on these little things. Whatever these little things are, these nail heads or screw heads, bolt heads, whatever they are up here. Got a little bit of rust on them. Just going to put a little bit of color onto those so they stand out a little bit more. Not too much. I don't want them to be too different from everything else up there. But maybe the guy who was doing this didn't use galvanized screws, or I don't know, maybe he used a different, he had used whatever he had on hand, and just wasn't working out for him. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to darken some of our, here it is, whoa! I'm just going to darken a little portion of our wood color here, because I'm going to go ahead and use that just to make a few cracks in our wood here. And it is, I'm making it out of Payne's Gray, so it probably will lighten up quite a bit, even though it looks pretty dark here. Let's see, I'm going to flip this, and maybe this one comes all the way through. There's another little one there. I think I'm not going to do too much more than that. I think that's pretty good. And while I'm waiting for everything else, I'm going to attempt to rebuild my little nail heads here. Let's see, where's my sepia again? I'm just using sepia on the bottom, on the underneath part, and burnt sienna on the top part, just so it looks like there's a top and a bottom, maybe a little shadow on there, but they're sticking up just a little bit. There we go. I'm going to get my bigger brush. I'm not going to wait too much longer. I'm going to warm our mixture up. Here we go. I might use this over here. This was our ochre and something else. And I'm going to put in, I'm going to stay away from our cracks in here. I'm going to paint in just a little bit of other color. Maybe this board has gotten a little bit darker over here. There we go. We just don't want it all to be the same color. Right, that's a dark spot right there. Maybe there's one over here too. Ooh, this one's a little grayer. And I'm just putting on this little bit of color. I'm just tapping and drying my brush off so I can blend it out, just so I don't get that hard edge. I don't want that on there. I want this color to look like it's just coming in and out a little bit without me doing anything for it. Where am I at on time? I'm at 21 minutes. I'm doing okay. I'm going to put a little bit more color up here. Warm it up a little bit. I'm going to flip this over one last time, I think. There we go. Just let that come out wherever it wants to go to. Just taking away that hard edge. That's going to leave the color on there. It's going to give us some variation, but we're not going to have to do too much work for it. And you see, when I put that on there, it made that whole thing pop right out of there. Just absolutely popped off of there now. Alright, where else? Can I do any more of this anywhere? Or does that look pretty good? I'm going to put just a little bit right there. Just clean and dab my brush. And I think everything will be done except for the most fun part, which is the rusty part here. I'm going to start with a little bit of maroon. I'm going to put that on there. I'm not going to stay with all maroon. What brush do I have? I want to get this. I was holding the number 8. I don't know where I got that. I want the number 4. I'm going to get a little bit of my brown here and put my sienna back in with it. Make sure I've got a nice mix. I think it's a little too watery. I want it just a little thicker than that so I can make this a little bit of a stronger color. There we go. I'm hoping that that red is just going to shine through in a couple of places. Just going to brighten that up a little bit. There we go. I'm going to mix in a little bit of ochre in here. I don't want this to be, this is easily, you could make this all one color, and it would be an acceptable picture, an acceptable painting. I think you'd lose a little bit of the excitement in it if you did that. So I'm just going to make it a couple of different colors. That red underneath should help a little bit. There we go. Now really what I think I need to do is I think I need to let this dry real quick, give it a couple of extra touch-ups, and we'll be done. So let me put you on pause while I blow dry this, and I will be right back. Alright, here we go, I'm back, and we got a couple of things to do. I just noticed I need to blue this up a little bit, kind of put a bit of a shadow back here behind our lock. I didn't realize we didn't do that before. I got busy painting different colors, and it wasn't until I looked at it while I was blow drying it that I realized, hey, wait a minute, I don't have any shadow on that lock to make it look like it's standing out away from the wall just a little bit, or standing away from that wood just ever so slightly. So I'm going to do that right now. That won't take any time. There we go. Just a nice gradual, real light blue. Light not meaning a light colored blue, but a little bit of blue. I should make that distinction. And I'm going to kind of use that same color, and I'm going to paint back here to put a little bit of shadow on this hook. There we go, and I'm going to put a little bit on the back side here underneath. There we go. We don't need a whole lot. I think that's all I'm going to do, actually. I hope you can see that. I don't know if you can. And I'm going to do one last thing, and I might screw everything up here. I don't know. Sometimes I do that more than I let on. But I'm going to just scratch in a little bit of extra color over here. Let that get a little bit lighter as it goes towards our edge. I don't know, you'll have to tell me if that looks better or worse. I don't know. I think it looks better. I think it looks a little better. Okay, I'm going to stop there before I start to fiddle too much with it. I'm really happy with it. Here's the original we started with. Ooh, there it is, our lock hanging in the hasp. There's what we came up with. Let me zoom in so you can get a better look at it. There it is. I think it looks great. We didn't put the name of the lock on there, but I don't think that matters. I think it's fantastic. All right, there we go. I enjoyed painting with you this evening. I hope you had fun painting with me. I hope to see you back in the studio again another time. Please subscribe to my channel. That will ensure that you'll get notification of new videos that I post, just like this one. And we'll see you later. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.